The big focus that we have for you this morning is the latest update as far as Prime Minister's visit to Poland and Ukraine is concerned. Now, 6 weeks after visiting Moscow, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Ukraine. And while he was in Ukraine, we saw a handshake, a hug and support being given to Ukrainian President Zelenskyy. And at the same time, Prime Minister reached the capital Kyiv after an overnight train journey aboard a Polish train called the Train Force 1. Prime Minister Modi visited Kyiv at the invitation of Ukrainian President Zelenskyy. 2.5 years into the Ukrainian war, that moment was historic as Prime Minister was one of the very few leaders of significance around the world who had warm relations with both Putin and Zelenskyy, while India remained among the only countries that had treated with Russia and Ukraine in non-adversarial terms. Let's listen in to what the Prime Minister had to say.
हमने दो प्रकार की भूमिकाओं का रास्ता अपनाया और उस भूमिका को निभाने का हमने भरपूर प्रयास किया है। हमारी पहली भूमिका रही है मानवीय दृष्टिकोण की। ऐसे संकट की घड़ी में बहुत सारी रिक्वायरमेंट रहती है, जिन रिक्वायरमेंट को पूरा करने के लिए भारत ने हो सका उतना एक मानवीय दृष्टिकोण को केंद्र में रखते हुए पूरा करने का प्रयास किया है। और मैं आपको विश्वास दिलाता हूं कि मानवीय दृष्टिकोण से भी जिस प्रकार की मदद की आवश्यकता होगी, भारत हमेशा हमेशा आपके साथ खड़ा रहेगा और दो कदम आगे चलेगा। एक्सेलेंसी, हमने जो दूसरा मार्ग चुना वो दूसरा मार्ग है युद्ध से दूर रहने का। हम बहुत ही कन्विक्शन के साथ युद्ध से दूर रहे हैं, लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि हम तटस्थ थे, हम न्यूट्रल नहीं थे। हम पहले दिन से ही पक्षकार रहे हैं और हमारा पक्ष है शांति का। हम बुद्ध की धरती से आते हैं जहां युद्ध को कोई स्थान नहीं होता है। हम महात्मा गांधी की धरती से आते हैं जिसने पूरे विश्व को शांति का संदेश दिया है। एक्सेलेंसी, मैं आज जब यूक्रेन आया हूं तब मैं 140 करोड़ भारतीयों की भावना को लेकर के आया और 140 करोड़ भारतीयों की भावना मानवता से प्रेरित है और मैं आज यूक्रेन की धरती पर शांति का संदेश लेकर के आया।
Mr. President, thank you for having us here. I'm Rishabh, Principal Correspondent for Times Now. So my question is, in March, there was a report from the State Department of US that US believe India can use its influence on Russia to stop this war. Do you endorse this? And what was, according to you, the major outcome of today's bilateral meeting?
Nafta, тому що нафта.
Well, because of oil, that's what we were talking about, because the billions of dollars are returned to Russia. If India won't be buying oil, then Russia will have big troubles, significant troubles and challenges. And I think this is what was meant, because the first and foremost is the economy, because there's not only the oil, there's many other aspects. Currently, there's very significant contracts signed between India and Russia. I'm not saying this is something new. You had this relationship, but as for the oil in times of war, I believe this is the record-breaking contracts. And I think that stopped it. He's afraid of losing the economy. He has nothing except for oil. His main currency is oil. If he's not going to sell oil or gas or other chemical products, then, frankly speaking, he will have very significant challenges was paying pensions, was paying salaries inside his own country. They're not selling their technologies, and their economy is very slow. So they do have a kind of an energy-based economy, and they're export-oriented. So if the countries won't be importing energy resources from the Russian Federation, then they will be helping the whole world.
Now, viewers, Prime Minister Narendra Modi told Zelenskyy during their bilateral meeting that dialogue is the only solution to the conflict in Ukraine. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar described Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first visit to Ukraine as a landmark moment, as it is the first time an Indian Prime Minister visited the country since the establishment of diplomatic ties. Listen in.
There have been a number of public positions taken by India and by the Prime Minister on this subject. A little more than 2 years ago, he had actually publicly said that this is not an era of war. He had also underlined that dialogue and diplomacy are the key. Most recently, he emphasized that the solution will not come out of the battlefield. And obviously, we find the civilian and humanitarian toll of this conflict particularly.
So while the world is looking at India as the messenger of peace, we are seeing opposition targeting the Prime Minister over his visit to Ukraine. And we had a reaction from the Congress party suggesting that there are enough conflict zones in India as well for the Prime Minister to visit. TMC MP Jawahar Sarkar even went a step ahead and tweeted pictures of all the world leaders who saw a downfall in their political career after Zelenskyy's alleged cursed handshake, and predicted the same fate for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Listen in.
As the Prime Minister is also on a visit to Ukraine, the talks are going on between the two countries, but he has appealed for a restoration of peace there. But the Congress party and the other opposition parties are also raising a question that why he hasn't been gone to Manipur. What's your stand?
No, that's the question which everybody in the world is asking him, not just people in India. Even in the world, people are laughing at him that your own country, Manipur, is burning, and you are going around the world trying to establish peace. Please go to Manipur first.
Why hasn't the Prime Minister found time to go there? I think in that sense, it's almost as if the Prime Minister frankly does not know what the hell is happening in Manipur, right? And a clueless Prime Minister is not something we can afford.
And the BJP has hit back and countered the Congress party's charge with Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri, claiming that the government cannot stop its engagements because of petty domestic politics. Listen in.
Prime Minister has been very warmly received in Ukraine. He was also very warmly received in Poland. But that is essentially the Prime Minister, the core of his message, that we should use the instruments of diplomacy, we should call for, talks. And I don't want to get into a discussion on who's playing domestic politics and trivializing issue. Okay? For the democratically elected head of government, third time elected, okay? It's the solid support of the Indian state. For him to be calling for peace, I think is a very positive thing in the global context.
Mr. Priyank Kharge would probably do well to comment on what is happening in the state of Karnataka. He's after all a senior leader from there. And he's from an eminent political family. And in Karnataka, there's a serious allegation against the sitting chief minister from the Congress party about allegations of corruption in taking land, which he should not have taken, his family members should have taken. So therefore, probably his statement is to just deflect the critical crisis in the state of Karnataka in the Congress party and its leadership.